So, hello everyone. Welcome to another live session with Little Leaps. Before we dive in, I want to express my gratitude to each one of you for taking the time to join in, regardless of your time zone. Your dedication to learning and making a positive impact in children's lives is truly inspiring, and it inspires us also to come up with these kind of topics to share with you. Today, I am thrilled to introduce you to a very special guest who holds a significant place in my journey. And I had the pleasure of meeting her during my visit to San Diego, and I consider her one of my mentors. She deeply influences me for the work that I do. So now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce her. Our special guest is Jeanne-Marie Paynel. Jeanne-Marie is a mother of two adults and holds certification in AMI for 0 to 6 years, positive discipline, and she is also a birth doula. She has also earned her master's degree in Montessori education. Our focus today is on creating peaceful homes using family meetings, where we are going to explore various strategies for fostering a harmonious home environment through regular family gatherings. But before we delve into our discussion, I would like to ask Jeanne-Marie what motivated her to venture into the realm of early childhood and becoming a parent mentor.
Oh my goodness. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, I remember a very nice meeting with you, Madhuri, here in San Diego, where we attended our monthly. We were very, very lucky here. We have Jane Nelson, who lives in San Diego, and she holds monthly mentor meetings, which are a wonderful way to always learn more. She's always coming up with ideas, and we attended one together, and that was lovely. So what drove me to early childhood? I think I was just born with I don't know. I consider myself as somebody who never grew up and who can understand children. That I've always felt very, very connected to young children, and I've always felt that they were misunderstood. So I guess I'd have to do some psychoanalysis. Maybe I was never understood as a child. Who knows, right? It's you don't know, but as a high schooler, first of all, I have to say that at 11 years of age, both my parents remarried and both decided to start new families. So at 11, I had two little baby brothers, one on each continent, France and the US. And I was in love with babies and taking care of them. I would volunteer at my brother's daycare on, my school breaks and everything. So I think it was always something that I really wanted to do. Life took me down a different path. I, went to college. I did photography. I went into advertising for 20 some years, met my husband, had a child, and then was like, wait, this isn't really what I should be doing. I think there's something better for me to be doing. And that's when I went back actually to school to get my master's in Montessori. And my life radically changed, where I invested myself in early childhood education and, most importantly, in parenting education, because I think that as guides, as teachers, when we delve deeper into child development, there is so much information that is not being shared with parents. And that has been my mission, is to really share what we know about children to the parent, who is the first teacher of the child, who is the first guide, because I like to say guide as opposed to teacher, but really they're the ones that are the most important. So I really like to do that work with the parents. So long answer to your question.
No, I enjoyed listening to. I think I I listened to it the last time also when we met, so I knew a part of your story. But yeah, today it's a little more detailed. So one thing that you mentioned was that as a young child, maybe you did not feel you were heard of enough, and probably this is why the importance of family meetings, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, very much so. Yes. So today I chose to share with you what I think is a cornerstone in positive discipline, right? So positive discipline, just a little background, and I'm sure most of you know, but it's really based in Alderian psychology, which is this idea that all of us here on the call, everybody that's going to be listening to the replay, we all want significance and belonging. And that behavior or quote unquote misbehavior in our children is just a message to us that they are not feeling significant and they're not feeling that belonging. So we can also call it love and responsibility, but that significance and belonging is so important for all of us. And especially for children to feel like they're safe, they're secure, they're confident, they belong to their community. And so the family meeting within the context of positive discipline is a beautiful opportunity for us to practice so many of the tools that we share in positive discipline, right? Because this will be a time when we want to meet on a regular basis, where we commit to this, where this is where we're going to be able to share the good, the bad, and find solutions together. Because if we remember correctly, positive discipline is all about being authoritative, right? It's about collaboration. It's about finding solutions together. It's not a top down. It's really about working with all the members of the family, whether, in the classroom. I used to do classroom meetings in my classroom. So it was really coming together, all of us together, and finding solutions together. And that's why I wanted to share it, because it really is a beautiful way to really be that authoritative family that we want to have, right? And so family meetings are going to teach us also and let us practice all of these wonderful social and life skills that I think, I mean, I'm presuming, but I think that most of us want our children to have, right? Which are being able to listen, being able to have cooperation, being able to be respectful, all of these qualities that we hope our children will have one day, and that we hope to have, right? So in family meetings, we have the opportunity to teach children listening skills, brainstorming skills, problem solving, mutual respect, the value of kind of cooling off, right? When we flipped our lid, the value of coming down and cooling off, so that we can then deal with the situation before we problem solve. Concern for others, cooperation, collaboration, as I mentioned. Um, Having accountability also in a safe environment, because we're creating a safe space where we can share really what is on our heart, what is on our mind, right? We know that we're not going to be judged, we're not going to be shamed. This is a place where we can come together and really share what's going on. So that's very important. And then this idea of really choosing solutions that are going to be respectful to everyone. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but that is really important, is when we come to an agreement of what the solution is going to be, it needs to be respectful for all of the members. And then that sense of significance and belonging that is so important, right? Because we're coming together, we all belong, we all have significance in that family meeting. Then also social interests, because we're interested in what other members have to say, whether you're doing this in a classroom setting or at home. We're being very intentive about listening and not wanting to react, right? So we have that social interest, and really we learn our listening skills. And then a great reminder that mistakes are always opportunities for us to learn, right? So this is just some of the beautiful, juicy skills that we learn when we have those family meetings. And so, and we might think that when we do family meetings, it's to get children to behave, or it's to get children to do things the way we want them. But family meetings are for parents too, because I think it's really going to help the parents avoid power struggles, right? Avoid and really sharing control respectfully with all the members of the family or all the members of the classroom. It's avoiding parents from feeling like they have to micromanage children, right? So that children can really learn self-discipline, because that's the thing about positive discipline. It's not about getting children to do things, but it's helping children develop this inner knowing and really a self-discipline, right? To be able to have control over our own will. And that's the beauty of it. So it's really helpful for parents to learn to not feel like they have to be in control of everything. They have to micromanage everything. It's giving up control. And it can be hard at the beginning, because you've always been in this, position where you feel like you're the one that has to manage everything. But this is going to be an opportunity where you can let go of that. And it's going to help you also learn to listen in ways that invite children to listen as well, right? Because we will only feel listen when we're listened to, right? And that's a muscle that needs to be worked on. I think we oftentimes think we're listening, but we're already thinking about what our response is going to be. And the really responsive or active listening is really intentionally like quieting your mind, hearing what the person has to say, taking a moment, and then maybe having a response. But first, the beauty of it is to have the response of, did I hear this correctly? Did I hear you say that? Right? So that we're getting in agreement that we're hearing the same thing. So the child really does feel heard. And then this is a great way to just share responsibility, because, being a Montessorian, I'm a firm believer that children need to have a lot of responsibilities in the home, and they want to have the responsibilities in the home. So this is another opportunity to be able to share those, whether it's, cooking, cleaning, getting things done around the house is very important. And then what I think is beautiful also in family meetings, if we start it as a family tradition, it's going to really create amazing memories, because we're coming together on a regular basis and we are planning wonderful things together. We're not only solving negative problems, right? We're using these family meetings to plan trips, to plan parties, to plan events, to plan a craft that we want to do together, whatever it might be. And those are creating joyous, beautiful memories that the child will keep forever, that will remind them how connected they are to their family and how much significance and belonging they have. So, and lastly, I think it's an opportunity for parents to model the skills that they want their children to have. So this is, you're kind of on stage and you have to really be attentive to what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
And please, stop me at any time if you have questions. I have a few more things that I want to share, but if you have any questions as I go along.
I,
Please don't hesitate.
I remember having this conversation with Yogi Patel when I was having a session with her, and she was telling when she was a teenager, she started to lie because the parents do not understand you, or the child is thinking that the parent does not understand you. So I feel family meeting plays an important role where you get that opportunity to open up to each other. And I have seen that at home as well. When we are discussing about, we have given this autonomy to my child as well, to come and say what she likes about us and what she gets annoyed with. So it really helps us work on ourselves to become better. And yes, when we see that children are lying, I think that's the first sign we must, become alert of and start working upon things that can help. The other thing that
Yeah.
you mentioned was listening, right? Before even, it's not a response, but it's already pre-planned when we are reacting. It's more of a reaction than a response to the child when we are not listening. But when we are open, um, it's a very different situation. So family meeting probably, contributes in that. So I want you to elaborate on the fact that you said family meeting should not just be about solving negative issues, but can also be an opportunity to, have bonding, doing things or planning things together. So can you suggest some of the things that we can do with young children who are below 6 and children who are above 6 as well?
So for one thing, I will say try to create a sense of family meetings from the very beginning, right? So even when you have a newborn, you can, you and your other family members can just make sure that you're checking in every week, or maybe at the beginning it's every day, but it's like this consistent time when you check in to make sure everybody's doing okay, right? Especially in that newborn phase. Postpartum can be difficult for some parents, both mother and father, and it's really important to be able to check in. So depending also where in the world you are, it seems like some people have a bigger kind of village around them that supports the new parents. Here in the States, you're pretty much left on your own. So to me, it's very concerning, and we need to be very attentive to that. So that would be a great opportunity to just start having these, times when you check in and the newborn is there. And remember, the newborn is absorbing, right? They're absorbing everything, especially those first 6 years. So start having that. And when I say to plan kind of joyous occasion, positive occasion, the parents that I work with, and when we start doing family meetings, I always say like the two first or three first meetings, try to make them light and more about planning a party, an outing, a vacation, so that the children understand that this is someplace where we can come together and plan things and find solutions, right? And only when we have kind of the mechanism of the meeting, which I'm going to go through, then we can start putting on what we call our agenda some more difficult situations, some more, things where we really need to come together and solve a situation that is making people uncomfortable. So that's why I say it's not only for solving negative things, but it's also about like, oh my goodness, we have 3 days, we have a long weekend in 2 weeks. What should we do, right? So it's about also planning fun and exciting things. And I think that when you do that, you will also have a better buy-in from the children, like, oh my goodness, it's a family meeting, we get to plan something, right? And And the other thing, when I go through the kind of the steps, we always want to wrap up the family meeting with a fun family activity, something that's gonna, whether it's we built a puzzle together, whether we, make a cake together, whether we go on a long walk, like make it something that the way that we kind of close off the meeting is nice, it's nurturing, it's something that we want to do together. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So,
So I'll just go through and maybe you'll understand better. Yes, there's a hand up. I see Jose has a hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Jeanne-Marie. Greetings from Switzerland, from Zurich. It's lovely to find adult child, inner child connected as me. So is
Mhm.
as and also as Madhuri. I think we need to create these networks from adults that are really well inner child connected. So I love
Yes,
your introduction, your presentation, because it's the way to connect and to work with children, that to see they can see you as one of them, no, as one of
exactly.
as an adult. So this is fantastic. Thank you. A couple of very brief things. The first one is so true, this family meetings approach, and I have seen this recently. A couple of weeks ago, I visited a kindergarten here in Bern where they organize children meetings to manage the kindergarten. So the children decide, for example, what they want to eat the next week, the times to arrive or to leave, the activities, of course, the projects. And I've been in one of these meetings, and it's incredibly interesting. The maturity, I'm talking about children from 3, 4 to 8, 9. And it's
Hmm.
incredibly interesting how they have created a system to facilitate their opinions, their words. If they have an idea, they use an icon of and something that is brilliant. If they want to express a feeling of happiness, they have a rainbow. If they want to ask for permission or pardon, beg pardon for anything. So it's incredibly interesting. And I also have worked with this in my area, that is culture, inviting children to reshape museums from
Ooh,
inside. So
wow.
it's incredibly true what you are doing and what you are defending, because is so they have a lot of impact, not only in the children but also in the adults. The adults
Yeah.
unlearn a lot of things and learn new things. This is the first comment, and the second one, very briefly, I'm so interesting to curious to know, what do you think about the connection between micro and micro and micro level? I mean, do you think if we will use much more these family meetings, maybe we will not have this terrible international atmosphere of violence, war, and because I think the families at the end are micro societies, are the
They are.
basic units. So if in these units children are able to handle conflicts in a pacific way, I'm confident that this will resonate, echo when they grow and start to be a prime minister or a politician. They will for sure remember this way to solve a conflict, not with a missile or a bomb, but with words and trying to solve in a negotiation a conflict. That's my
Oh
two
my
main
goodness.
inputs.
Yes. So thank you so much for that comment, Jose, because 100%, I believe that peace, world peace begins at home. That when we feel that we are listened to, that our issues, as small as, bizarre as they might be, because we all have, if we feel that we are listened to and that we have an authoritative household that is democratic, that is, finding solutions together, that it is not a top-down system, then yes, I mean, we in our homes, we are creating the future leaders of the world, right? And if we are able to create peaceful homes where we feel listened to, where we have those negotiation skills from the beginning. And as you saw in that kindergarten, children are so bright and intelligent and capable of knowing what a respectful solution is without having a master's in this or that or positive discipline. They know it in their heart. They know it because they are being, listened to, and they feel loved, and they feel they have significance and belonging. I remember my classroom meetings. I really always, very intentionally took a step back and really let the children lead the meeting. So I was there just to, make sure that it went smoothly, but I rarely, suggested anything, and I let them. And it was mind-boggling how just, knowledgeable, intuitive, smart, and capable they are when we give them the opportunity, when we let them have a voice. They are so amazing. And I do have to say, yesterday, actually the day before, I also have a podcast called The Art of Parenting. So you can listen to it everywhere. And this next Thursday, so the 21st, an interview that I did with a author, Ellen Galinsky. So you might have read The Mind in the Making a few years back. She's coming out with a book called The Breakthrough Years, which I just loved the conversation because it was about adolescence, right? Adolescents, just like toddlers, just like those preschoolers, get such a bad rap and a bad label of, oh my goodness, it's so hard to be around these people and all this. And she was saying, first of all, she did a lot of brain research, and then she interviewed adolescents. And adolescents are saying, you don't understand, you're not paying attention. And it's like, they are the leader, they are the next leaders. Like, we need to be paying attention, right? And so it's just beautiful. So if you get the occasion, listen to that, because it's kind of the same conversation we're having here about just, the children are our future. And that's what, Dr. Montessori saw, and that, peace will come through our children. And it is, up to us, the guides and those who are, connected to the children, that we need to help parents to understand their children and have peaceful homes so we can one day have world peace. Definitely. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you, Jeanne-Marie.
As you can see, I get very excited about that.
One of
Okay,
the,
so now let's go back to family. Yes,
one of
Wei?
the questions that I have regarding family meetings, as you said, um, most of the families nowadays is a micro family, a nuclear family, where extended family has not much to interfere in, and even if they want to, they are outrightly either kind of rejected or sometimes heard, but definitely not done. But at the same time, there are also families who are living together, the extended family living together. And what if, when we are having family meetings, the older generation and the parents and the grandparents, they themselves are not, in sync with whatever, agenda we are coming up with? In such situations, what can we do? For example, many a times a parent might have certain thing in mind, for the child, but the grandparents think no, it's too much of torture to the child, so you should cut the slack and then give some leeway to the child. So in such situations, how do we deal with so everybody comes to a common consensus?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one because, even with families where they don't live under the same roof, I have a lot of those questions from parents of, parents are wanting to parent differently than the way they were parented. And it's not to say that it was wrong or that, their parents were bad or whatever. It's just that that's just human evolution, right? We know more about the brain. We know more about feelings, about what stress does to us, all of this. So we're evolving as a human species, or at least I would like to think so. Sometimes I'm not sure, but and so I think our parenting evolves. Like I parented my children differently than the way I was parented. And I know my children, if they have children, will parent differently than the way they were parented. So it's just an evolution. And I think in a family meeting, that would be a great opportunity to talk with all the different generations of saying, I love you. I respect you. You are an amazing, you were an amazing parent and you are an amazing grandparent. And this is the 21st century and we are doing things a little differently, right? And I know it's a delicate topic because sometimes our older generation might take it personally, like, you think I was a bad parent. It's not at all that. It's knowing that when I say you, I'm talking to maybe my elders. You did the best you could with the knowledge and the tools that you had at the moment. Today, we know differently, so we're doing differently. And this is my turn to parent, and I hope that you can respect the way that I would like to do it. And so the family meeting would be a great way for the different generations, because for me, family meetings, it's whoever is living under the same roof, right? I think everybody should be a part of it. And to learn to listen, that the older generation, I think, I have seen grandparents, I've worked with a lot of grandparents who are just fascinated and see how differently they would do things if they knew what we know today, right? Like they understand that there's an evolution. So I think it's coming from a place of great respect for our elders and a place of asking for respect as to how we want to do it differently without judging each other and so forth. So it's nuanced, it's delicate, but so important to get their buy-in too, right? To get their kind of approval to be able to do things differently. And I think it's important to try to not get into kind of a power struggle with our elders of, my way is better, but to just model how we want, how we want them to talk to our children and to just model it without ever saying, oh, don't do that, or right. Because we tend to, I think when we're in that, what we call the sandwich generation, when we're in the middle, we tend to want to tell, both sides, like, don't do it this way, don't do it that way. To me, what is most important is to model to our children, to our elders, how we want to be treated, how we want our children to be treated is the most important. So just quickly, I was going to just go through the very simple steps to creating these family meetings. And so basically at first it's just introducing the concept to your family. I would definitely encourage you to read the part in Positive Discipline from Jane Nelson. She has a nice, very nice introduction about it and so forth. And I also I can share with you the link to kind of download a little kind of ebook that I created around it. But basically, first you're introducing the concept of the family meeting, right? You're reviewing the steps with all the participants. And this should be done regularly at the beginning so people remember what the steps are. I highly recommend to have some sort of object, kind of considered, a talking stick. I had in the classroom, I had this beautiful glass sphere that was quite fragile, so they passed it on to each other. But it's the idea that when you're holding something, this is your opportunity to talk. And this really helps that everybody is going to have the opportunity to talk, because there are going to be some family members or some children in your classroom who, might be introverts and don't want to speak up. But once they have it, it's like it's their opportunity. They can pass it, they can refuse to say anything, but it also helps everybody listen to the person that has the talking stick or sphere or whatever it might be. Then we always start with loving kindness. We always start by sharing compliments and appreciation for each other. So, Midori, I really appreciate you bringing together all these people that are so concerned with children's well-being, right? And Jose, I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in sharing what you saw in the kindergarten. So we're really starting with opening to very positive, loving kindness. Or, I really appreciate how you cleaned up the bathroom the other day, because it was really a big mess, and it was so nice that you did it without me asking you to do. So really taking the time to notice what is being done in a positive way. And then we use our family agenda. So the family agenda is a place that during the days that we don't have a family meeting is a place that we can put our concerns, put our ideas down so that we know that they're going to be talked about, right? Where we're kind of pinning them somewhere. So it can be, pinned on the refrigerator, or if you have a blackboard, or if you have a notebook on the counter, whatever, that's going to be where you keep the issues that you want to bring up in the family meeting. So you go through the family agenda, it helps us stay on task. And then you focus on solutions and you brainstorm together solutions. And this to me is where I think the parent will need to learn to take a step back and really let the children speak first, let the children come up with solutions first, and never say, oh, no, that's not a good idea, or just really be mindful to just write them all down. Like they might be completely silly or whatever, but you write them all down, because it's together that we are going to vote on it and decide which one is the most, respectful. So it's really encourage the children to go first and make sure that you listen and you really, really listen to them, right? And then we use what we call the 3 R's and H of encouraging solutions. And that is this idea that all encouraging solutions should be related. So related to the problem, they need to be reasonable, they need to be respectful, and they need to be helpful, right? So those are the 3 R's and that H: related, reasonable, respectful, and helpful. And that is to always keep that in mind. And I like to have a little visual that kind of, reminds us of that. And then we choose kind of what is the timeline of the solution, right? If there's a problem that is reoccurring, like, can we solve it by the next family meeting, or is it, within the hour, like depending on what that timeline, we decide on it. And then we wrap up the meeting by having something fun to do. And that's what I was saying, whether It's sitting down and having, we all have our coloring books and we just sit around and color, or we go for a walk, or we, go have, sit down and have dinner. I try to avoid having these family meetings around dinner time. Like dinner time for me is something that, I'm a big advocate to have as many meals together with your children each and every day. But I want to be respectful of like mealtime and everything. I don't want to, have to have a paper and be writing. Family meetings are really something separate. So after the family meeting, you could go and you have set the table before and you go have dinner together and voila. So those are kind of the quick steps. Any question there? I saw Jose had his hand up earlier, but
Yeah, it's this. I remember this wonderful story of a child of 4 years old with his grandpa, and the grandpa mentioned him, "Oh, I would like to be a kid again." And the child told him very seriously, "You can stop to eat broccoli and green beans." So I think these intergenerational stories are wonderful because it's like that children
yeah,
thinks, and it's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
I just to ask you, Jeanne-Marie, uh, what role do you give the digital screens in these family meetings? Because sometimes smartphones, mobiles, digital screens are competitors, are another member of the families, and it's not easy to handle this presence in a good way because it's a lot of pressure from the beginning and earlier and earlier and earlier in the childhood. So, from your experience, what do you think about how to handle this presence in the family meetings? If it's that you have some tricks or just some advices to handle these, and well, how to connect, because if not, could be very disruptive and very sometimes violent. It's not possible to handle this, but it's the reality of the child today. So it's not
It
possible.
is.
Even the artificial intelligence that is this tsunami that is uh, all over the reality of the child every day. How
Yeah.
do you think? And if you can share with us some experience about your family meetings of this problem solving, the children being able to solve the adulthood mess, as a girl told me sometimes, you adults, you are a mess, you are creating a mess in the world and you don't know how to
Yeah.
fix it, and you don't permit
Yeah.
us to fix it.
Yes.
Thank
No, very good question. And I'm extremely concerned about the tech world and the influence it is having on our children. We know with research that there are unfortunately many kind of, it's influencing their brain development. It's we're starting to have another thumb from scrolling. I mean, there's a lot of evolution, but it's here to stay. Like we can't undo what has been done. So I think it is very, very important to also know that we have a choice in our families, right? We have a choice as to what we spend our money on, and that children absolutely do not need any digital devices. That is amazing marketing from the tech industry that has created these, goofy little iPads for babies to hold, or, these devices that parents feel that they have to track their children and all this. So I think there's an awareness and an education that needs to be done vis-a-vis the parents, that you can choose to have a digital device if you want to, and you need to learn to manage your time on it. And you need to realize what it is doing to your mental health and your social life and so forth, but do not impose that on your children. So that's a larger conversation that, is hard to have. And I will say, I am of the generation that raised my children without digital devices because they just weren't available. We still had analog phones that were connected to the wall. I didn't have that. I got my first phone when my daughter went to high school, when she was, 16. So it's a totally different. Today, parents who are having babies today, they are on their phones while they're giving birth. Like, it's completely different, right? So we have to be very intentional about it. But for me, so I think that it is those family meetings that you're having with your parenting partners at the very beginning. These are decisions that need to be made at the very beginning of what the rules in your home are going to be. And just the other day, I interviewed actually a fellow who is doing a lot to bring awareness about what technology is doing to us and our families. And I was asking him, like, well, what do you do in your home? And there are no phones in the bedrooms, and there are no phones at the dinner table. So I would say there are no digital devices in family meetings. Like, we don't need digital devices. We have pen and paper, and that's it, right? So it's about us setting the rules. And then the family meeting is a beautiful platform to be able to solve the situation of, I have noticed that you're spending a lot of time on your video game and your, homework isn't getting done, or your room isn't getting cleaned up. Like, what solution do you have? So that is, something to put on the agenda to solve together. And it's funny that interview I was telling you about with Ellen Galinsky, she was actually mentioning a family where that was exactly it. The mother was saying her son was coming home, dropping all of the bags and the coats on the floor and just getting to his video games, and then being cranky, not wanting to do their homework. So together they sat down and said, I'm worried. There's, things aren't getting done. So he decided to go in a different door, because that different door had the coat hanger, everything to put everything away. Decided on his own that he just wanted 45 minutes, and that once the 45 minutes was over, he would get to what he needed to do. So, but that was solved because it was put on the table at a family meeting of shared responsibility, of shared solution. So yeah, to me, it's a huge kind of problem of our generation. But I think we have to remember that we do have choices, and that we need to be creating problem solvers and creative people, and not just consumers of, the industry that dictates what we see and what we hear.
Thank you, Jeanne-Marie.
Yes. Yes, Julien. I don't hear you.
Bonjour, Jeanne-Marie.
Bonjour, Julien.
Hello, everyone. Just thank you for this. This is really instructive. I'm from Bern, Switzerland, Jose. It's the Swiss gang tonight.
Yes.
How would you relate, let's say, your regular family meeting with, let's say, a heavy argument happening in the family at some time during the week? Let's say you have your family meeting on, let's say, Sundays, okay? And it happens that on, let's say, Tuesday, you have a very heavy argument. would you have a kind of exceptional family meeting, or you wait for?
So personally, if it's not life-threatening, I would say, can we put a pin on that? And let's put that on the family agenda. I think this is a great situation for us to come together and solve this together. Right now, I don't know as if we're all, all our lids are flipped and we're not making any sense. Let's put this on the family meeting agenda, and we can revisit it. So, like I say, if it's not life-threatening and it's not, we're not going to all fall apart and we can wait 48 hours to have our family meeting, I think this is a great opportunity. And that's what I was saying at the beginning. It really helps us to cool down and to know that, this is going to get taken care of. This is going to be paid attention to, because oftentimes, when we are in these situations, nothing really gets resolved. Like we get angry, we get, in our camp, we're not really listening. And so I think, to me, that would be my way of operating.
Okay, no, it was just to see if we need to like set up an exceptional emergency family meeting. Yeah.
Emergency family meeting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that, those, to me, those are all beautiful opportunities of things to talk about in the regular family meeting. Like, come up with that, like put it on the agenda. Like, what if one day there's something like really hard that we can't figure out? Should we have an emergency family meeting? But I would be cautious when we say, let's have a, emergency family meeting. Let's still wait 24 hours, because I think we all need to cool down, right? Because to say let's have a family meeting right now because we're in the middle of an argument, I don't think is going to have the same feel to it. And we're not going to go through all our steps of, appreciation and compliments and opening with loving kindness if we're doing it in the heat of the moment.
The rational
Thank
mind
you.
has already gone out of the window.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Radhika. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, hello. Jean, I have a question here. So you said no to technology, either video or anything like that. So generally, what I observe is during the meal time, the child is not very much interested into having his or her meals. So what the parent is forcibly doing is putting on the videos and feeding the child. This is not agreeable, but uh, what do you think? Okay, so during mealtime, if no video, else time also, if you want the child to learn some rhymes or some numberings and all that, do you suggest the parent learn all those and teach the child, or uh, the video should be put on for the child?
Okay, so great question. Thank you, Radhika. But I will ask you, how did you learn your rhymes and numbers and all of that? I'm sure it wasn't with videos. I'm sure it wasn't with technology. You learned it because there were other humans in your life who took the time to share things with you. Language development happens with other humans. It is through eye contact. It is through lip movement. That is how children learn language. It is not by watching videos or, that is not the way that it functions. And we know that from research, right? That children's language will develop a lot better and broader if they are spoken to by another human and that there is a human interaction, right? So there's that. But I think that unfortunately, because the digital devices that we have are addictive, they have been studied by the tech industry. They have studied our brain to make sure that we stay on these for as long as possible. That's how they make their money, is that we stay on these for as long as possible. So they are addictive. It is literally like a drug, like giving a drug to anyone. And so for me, what is important is that parents know that, so that they do not put it in the hands of their children from the very first place. Because once it is in the hand of their children, the child is addicted. Of course, they're not going to want to let it go, right? So it is kind of like a pacifier. It's a very, very easy way to quiet a child, because the way the brain works is they're fixated. It's their prehistoric brain that is fixated on it, and they're quiet. We say, "Oh my goodness, they're so focused." No, they're not focused. They're just they're just plugged in and zoned into this. Their prehistoric brain is locked into this. So for me, it's I think there's so much education to be done with parents of young children, that make the choice to not even introduce that to your children until much, much later, until they want to learn coding, until there is, a purpose to being on the digital devices. But entertainment, or to keep the child be fed, that is not the purpose. And unfortunately, that child is not learning about social interaction, about having a meal together with other humans, about having conversations, about learning to use utensils on their own. So yeah, I mean, it's hard, because a lot of families have started those habits. So now it's breaking those habits. And it's just like when a drug addict needs to be taken off the drug, there's going to be some moments of difficulty, but we need to do it for the sake of our children. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Thank
it's just, and it's something that I'm so adamant about, because I have seen it. I've seen it just in the classroom. I could see the difference in focus, in concentration that children had. There were some children, now there's television in cars, or they're watching television as they're having breakfast. I could tell the difference between those children and the children who didn't have screens in the morning, right? They were in their kind of la la land of, weird fantasy things, and they just couldn't concentrate, and they weren't engaged in their work, when the Montessori classroom is there for them with all this beautiful work to engage, but their brain wasn't connecting. So I think we need to be extremely careful, and especially, we know as they grow older, they're more and more fixated on their phone. There's a big epidemic of loneliness, of depression, of just poor mental health because of digital devices. So I think we need to be extremely cautious, deal with our own usage first, and don't put it in the hands of children, right? I always say, like, would you put a pack of cigarette in your child's hand? Probably not, because today we know the effects that it has. 30 years ago, we were all smoking cigarettes and it was fine. Now we know that it's detrimental to the health, so we see a lot less of it. We haven't gotten there yet with our digital devices, and there are, people that are working so that there is a little bit more control and awareness and all of that. But it's going to take us also saying, enough is enough. And I will finish by just sharing on a personal note. I think I saw that coming. And I know for myself, when I had my first child, so 27 years ago, I asked my husband if we could get rid of our television. So that was a very big ask because, he was from a family that always watched TV. I used to watch TV, but I knew that it was an element that I didn't want to have to deal with my family. So we actually did not have a television for the first 10 years. We survived. We are fine. And when my son was born, he wanted video games. It was, he's 23. And when he was, around 10, it was the big thing with Wii and Xbox and all these, gadgets that came out every year. And I made a very conscientious choice to not spend my money on that technology. I just did not want it in my house because I knew that it would be a source of conflict. And so I made the decision to not spend a penny on any of that. And it's true that, my son would say, oh, it's not fair. My friends have it and all this. And I said, yes, but I would prefer spending my money on taking you traveling. I think travel is the way to learn. And, I'm sure your friends haven't gone to see the pyramids in Egypt or the pyramids in Mexico or Italy or whatever, they're sitting in front of their video games. And so I'm just saying that, sharing that I think we need to remember that as families, we get to set the tone and we get to, impose the values that we want.
I would
That's
like
it.
to add. I would like to add to this, Jean, because yeah, it's true that in current generation, I don't see any child without the gadget. I see children, going in the stroller, and they are hardly maybe 10 months, 12 months old, and having phone in their hand, watching some random video. It doesn't work. Even if the child
Yeah.
is watching a rhyme or any childhood, anything which you think is very informative, but it's not going to get inside there. In long run, it doesn't go there. As for the keeping gadgets while eating, so researchers suggest when you are eating, the brain sends certain enzymes based on what you are eating to help digest the food. But when you're watching screen, what happens is your brain is trying to function for both watching the screen as well as digesting the food, sending the enzymes to the stomach. So there is a conflict, there is a confusion, and ultimately either the enzymes, most of the time the enzymes are not sent, and then ultimately we see either the children are obese or children are too thin. In both the situations, it's because the food is not properly absorbed by the body, and it's the result of screen time that the child has. So we have to be very careful and mindful of when to introduce the screen to the child.
Definitely. And until we have real, government and more societal kind of help around it, it's going to be hard because until we have more, a broader understanding, and I know, here in this country, there's a big task force, regulatory norms. We as the families, as the educators, have to really share all this information. Like I didn't know what you were just sharing, Madhuri, about the enzymes, but it makes total sense, especially in the young child who is a sensorial learner. They're sensorial. They need to be touching and smelling and tasting and hearing, not just swiping a screen and being, locked in. So we're kind of messing with with the human brain for sure. So But until that day, we have to be, you know, educating, and I won't stop talking about it. So thank you, Jose, for bringing that that conversation. As you can see, I am pretty adamant about it.
Okay, I have few questions that parents put out while registering for
Okay. Okay.
So one of the questions, I think we have already covered the screen time, so I'll ask uh, how to maintain consistent routine, especially when we are struggling every time with the negotiations during difference of opinions. There are a lot of negotiations due to difference of opinion. So how to deal with that and how to help set consistent routine for a child.
So routines for me are something, again, we can bring up during the family meeting. I have noticed, and this is, it's on the family agenda, that, getting out the door in the morning is becoming more and more difficult, and we're negotiating every day and we're arguing and all of this, and it's just, I'm tired and I want to start my day in a good mood. So that's on the family agenda. My thing with routines, it is something that we can do together with our children, and in positive discipline, there's a whole kind of structure about how to create routines with our children. So again, we are seeking solution and collaboration with our children. And so here we really, put on the table the idea that things could go a lot smoother if we knew what we need to do ahead of time. So, let's say that, Midori is my child, and we're having a really hard time leaving, in the morning to get ready to eat, to get dressed, and to go be ready for school. So, Midori, I've noticed that we're just arguing a lot in the morning, and then we're starting our day kind of grumpy. And so why don't we sit down and we brainstorm? We think of all the things that need to happen so that we can start our day in a good mood, and we get on time. I have to get to work on time. You have to get to school on time. And there's just a lot of things we need to do. So let's brainstorm, and we let the child brainstorm of all the things that need to be, if they need to pet the cat 5 times or give the teddy bear a hug, whatever, that's okay. We write it all down, we're brainstorming. And then from there, together, we say, let's put it in order as to what we need to do, so that at the end, we are, dressed, clean, well fed, and ready to go. And so there, depending on the age of the child, we can either, have them write it down. We can have them make little pictures. For younger children, I love taking photos of them doing the activities. So it's a visual reminder. And then we create this kind of routine chart, and put it in a place that we can see, whether it is in their room or in the hallway. And basically, we no longer need to negotiate or to nag or to remind, because we say, "Oh, remember? We talked about it. You know what to do. Why don't you go check? I have something I need to do," right? So that we're really giving ownership of the routine to the child. They're the sequence of things. I remember doing this with my son. We were having a really hard time getting out the door in the morning. I had to be at school on time. He had to be at school on time. And it just, we're both not, great morning people. And we sat down, we did this. This is at a time when he was reading. So it was these little Post-it notes, these little sticky notes, and they were in a vertical line on the post of his bed. And I saw once in a while he would change the order around. It didn't matter to me as long as the final one was we were in the car on time. And it worked beautifully. And I promise you that to this day, I feel that that experience for him has helped him have order in his life. He now travels the world by himself and he needs to, pack his bag. And I mean, he's made a few mistakes with, plane tickets, whatever, but that's okay. he's able to get himself organized. So I think it's really empowering our children to create these routines with them and to get out of the way, to stop being the one that is reminding and nagging and all this, because we are doing them a disservice if we are constantly there telling them what to do, because then they kind of go, they assume that they don't need to think for themselves because, somebody's going to tell them what to do. But we need to empower them to take ownership of those routines.
That's so true. And yeah, the morning struggles, I think everybody can relate to, all the parents. So yeah, it makes so much sense.
And I will say, yeah, and I will say to parents of young children, I know it might sound a little hard, but try to get up a little bit earlier so that you have some quiet time to yourself and that you are completely ready, so that you're not getting yourself ready while your child is getting ready. I think that really helps with the stress, at least at the beginning when you're first establishing those routines. Like, try to get yourself all ready.
Yes, that's so true. So one of the other parent has asked, as a parent, how do I support my child to improve their social behavior, discipline, individuality, and decision making? I see my child struggles in approaching other family members other than the mom for care or sharing.
Do we know how old this child is?
The child is between 3 to 6 years.
Okay. So, I think that for one, I think we need to be careful in how we label our children sometimes, of being shy or not being social or all this. Like, we all have personalities, and some of us, myself included, are very introverted. Like, if I go in a room with a lot of people, I'm going to take some time to warm up, to go talk to somebody, or, I mean, it doesn't look that way right now, but, I'm by myself in my office. I'm sharing what I love. I'm being asked, the questions that I love to talk about. But when I'm meeting new people or, in a family reunion or whatever, I'm going to take time to warm up. So I think it's just helping our children be who they need to be. And if they take time to warm up, then that's fine. Just say, I see that you're observing, you're just making sense of the room, and I'm right here with you. And when you feel ready to go talk to somebody, you can, right? I think that some of our elders tend to feel like there is this sense of lack of respect that we have of them. So yes, I was just saying that in those kind of cases, to just again, listen to the child as to maybe what is it that makes them feel uncomfortable about that situation, and to let them know that it's okay. Like, I'm right here with you, and if you want to stay next to me for a while, that's fine. I'm remembering, like, I would just sit on my mother's lap for a long time before I would venture out, and that's fine. And my children were the same, but once they were warmed up, off they went and talking to everybody and all that. So I think we just need to be okay with our children just being children.
How can we involve children who are very young? Say a parent having two children, one being an infant and the other being a toddler. How can these meetings support the toddler, because toddler being the elder one, but not too old enough to understand that the sibling needs more attention at this point of time and is feeling insecure and possessive about the mother. So, in such situations, how can these meetings help create an environment that the child understands that, rather than feeling jealous of the sibling, supporting the mother?
So there's first of all, I think, there's a bit of preparation to be done before the newborn is in the home, before the newborn is born, to just, and this again will, depend on the age of the child. Those first 3 years, it's kind of hard because, we know that the child is an unconscious learner and they just have very, strong needs and might not be able to rationalize that this is another human that also has needs, right? It's like they're very egocentric and the world revolves around them. So to me there, it's really about having a lot of compassion and empathy for this older sibling, that they have been dethroned from being the center of the earth and the center of their parents' universe. And now there's this crying little infant that is taking up all of my mother's time, who my mother is, feeding all the time and all of this. So we have to have a lot of compassion for these little humans, and then really prepare them to, so depending on your like family situation and all this, I'm of the school that I had them share rooms from the very beginning. So I brought home my second child, a newborn. I was only at the hospital for 48 hours. I brought him home and I put him in his sister's room. So from the day one. And so it became her possession, right? It was her little brother. And it's true that, it was a little bit more work for me because I would get up in the night, middle of the night, and I would feed him in their room. She must have woken up maybe those 2 first nights and then was reassured that he was going to be okay, and never woke up ever again. Even if he could be screaming bloody murder, she was fine. So that was something that a pediatrician had, suggested to alleviate any jealousy, because it's true. I mean, think of it, I'm by myself in my room and this newborn is with my parents. Like, how unfair, right? So, but there's some cultures where we're all sleeping together, so there isn't, so it really depends on your family dynamic and how you would. I have a husband who refused to have the babies in our bedroom, so that was my family thing, right? But so there's that. And then it's really about trying to empower the older child to be a helper, right? It's like, oh my goodness, why is your brother crying? I wonder, do you think he needs a diaper? Would you mind going and getting a diaper for me? Let's change the diaper, so that you do it together, right? So that there's that significance and belonging. They have an important role, right? Or, oh, he just threw up. Can you go get me a little cloth to clean up? As opposed to, oftentimes we tend to say, oh, don't touch, he's fragile, like it's off limit, when I think that the toddler knows to be gentle and so forth. And so we need to, it's like what Jose was saying at the earlier about the classroom meetings, like they know, they have that intuition. So I think it's really about, bringing them into the picture and giving them that responsibility from the beginning. And then having a lot of empathy and compassion, like I say. And if you can, have a moment in the day where you are just one-on-one with that older child. And at the beginning, it's very hard. So you need the help of another parent, maybe dad can go do something special, so that they feel like, they are special because they get to do things that a newborn could never do. So those would be a few of the tips I have.
Yeah, that's great. And you would say it will be similar for children adolescents as well, because they are in that space where the hormones are spurting, and they are absolutely erratic at times. So in such situations, how do you deal with those tantrums with two siblings not at all in sync with each other, fighting, and then you trying to manage both of them, yet trying to solve, because at times you, as a parent, we might feel that both are correct, and whom to say you are right and the other one is wrong. So how to deal with those situations? I'm sorry.
So beautiful question, because for me, sibling relationship and sibling rivalry, siblings need to deal with it. We need to step away from it, right? For me, I think for me as a parent, it's important to say, let's take these two brothers that I have on my screen, Julia and Jose, right? They keep on arguing about something. I'm I'm going to say, Julia and Jose, you two are brothers, and I know you love each other, and I know you have each other's back. So I trust that you can come up with a solution as to how you're going to deal with whatever solution, right? So you're empowering them to come up with the solution on how they're going to deal with. They're probably fighting over that stupid video game that you got them, right? And it's like, so, they need to figure it out. Like you cannot always be there to be the negotiator. You have your own life, you have other things to deal with. And the most important thing is you're not going to be around all the time. So you need to help them have a solid relationship, have a solid understanding of each other and what each other's needs are, so that they can figure it out, and that you can be at peace with knowing that your children have each other's back and will figure it out together.
Yeah,
It's like Jane Nelson always says. She says for sibling rivalries to put them in the same boat, right? To put them together in the same boat so that they navigate together, as opposed to us saying, don't do this. And oftentimes, I think as an outsider, we're going to see only a small fraction of what's going on. So we're going to say, "Oh, Julien, you shouldn't be doing this," and then Jose was the one that was poking at him in the back, and I didn't see that, right? So it's really about helping them say, I know you two adore each other. Sometimes you get in these fights, but I trust that you two can figure it out.
Yeah, that's very important. That's so true.
Yeah.
So it was a lovely long session today. I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of information that I learned. I'm sure all the audiences here, everybody would have something to take away. Would you like to, just give some things for parents to keep in mind when they are having these family meetings before we end our session for today?
So to keep in mind vis-a-vis family meetings, I think start simple. Don't think that it's going to solve all the problems of the family, but it's the consistency. It's the idea that you are deciding that this is something important, that it is part of your family values, that you want to be an authoritative, collaborative, solution-seeking family, and that this is a way to get there. And so keep it simple at the beginning and try to be consistent. So if you think that, doing it once a week is going to be too much, or, every day is going to be too much, best your family. Some family meetings might be, kind of reduced, maybe not so many steps, and it's just 10 minutes every day, just a check-in. Or some families might want to do a longer one once a week, right? On maybe on Sunday, to look at the calendar, know what's going on for the week. So it's really, I want you to really sit with it and do it how it's going to make you and your family feel better, feel more connected, and be that loving, peaceful family, so that, like Jose said, we're going to create world peace by having these wonderful, family meetings. So simple and consistency at the beginning, and have fun with them. Like, make this some beautiful, memories for you and your family.
Wonderful. So before we end our session, one last question. How do the audience reach out to you if they want to, contact you?
Well, I mean, I do have my podcast that comes out every week. That is The Art of Parenting. It's on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And my website is yourparentingmentor.com. I think I've also shared a link with you, Madhuri, that you can share, which is my little ebook on positive discipline tools. And then, once you have entered your email, you will be on my email list, and you will get my weekly newsletter with my podcast and so forth. So that's probably the best way.
Yeah, and I recommend every parent to listen to the podcast, because the conversations are amazing, brilliant, and very insightful. Every guest that Jeanne-Marie has invited, I have learned definitely something from them.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you.
It's a must for everyone, I would say.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone for staying so long with us, especially people in India. It's 11 p.m. in the night. And for the people who still are spending their evening and day, you have a wonderful day, the rest of the day. And yeah, we are taking a goodbye for today, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
It was great. Thank you.
It was wonderful. Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for coming. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.